And we're back. This is the LA Football Show. What's up, Los Angeles? Live on the Mightier 1090 ESPN Radio. We are on LAFBnetwork.com, the Los Angeles Football Network. Joined as always by my good friend, co-owner of the network, Jamal Badney. I'm your co-host, Ryan Dyrud. We're doing a little joint final segment here on radio. So if you're on podcast, I'm sorry, Bruins fans. I'm sorry, Trojans fans. We're going to talk about both teams. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're comparing kind of players who they're hanging out with, who they're kind of how they can improve. So I think it's going to be a good college discussion in general, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. But Jamal, final segment here. How we doing? Excited to talk some college ball with you.
Oh, you know I'm always ready to talk college ball, and with the men of Troy and the Bruins of UCLA.
Yes, sir. Show is always brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. Use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. Gets you a 50% welcome bonus on your first time deposit. Tell them the guys at the LA Football Network sent you and use that free money to win some more money this weekend. All right, so let's start with this. Jalen Hurts, NFC, you could call him quarterback of the year, went to the Super Bowl, formerly played with Lincoln Riley down in Oklahoma after transferring from the great school of Alabama, was on USC's campus hanging out with Lincoln, hanging out with Caleb. What do you like about that kind of, whenever pro quarterbacks come and hang out with future pro quarterbacks, it's always a kind of fun, a simulation, fun conversation, I'm sure. So what do you make of it?
No, Ryan, I think, it's obviously Lincoln's pulling out all the stops here to come and talk to Caleb. And ironically enough, for as much as of Lincoln being the quarterback guru, I think Jalen Hurts is the only guy that he's coached that is better than Caleb Williams right now. I mean, think about where Baker is right now. Think about where Kyler is right now. And on the list we go. I think the only guy he could really call that would really have any gravitas with this team was Jalen Hurts, ironically enough. It's actually a testament to how great Caleb Williams is. And I think I think it was probably a great conversation that was centered around how to transition into kind of the next level of adopting Lincoln Riley's offense. Obviously, Hurts with this famous transition from Nick Saban to Lincoln Riley. Now Caleb going from year one to year two. I think a lot of conversation probably centered around nuance. And I think one of the areas where Caleb could really learn from Jalen Hurts coming into this 23 season is instincts. I think Jalen Hurts did a remarkable job with the Eagles of knowing exactly when to throw and when to run in broken play situations. And he was very decisive this year. And I think that decisiveness is ultimately one of the major linchpins of why the Philadelphia Eagles made it all the way to the Super Bowl and arguably should have won the Super Bowl if not for a phantom pass interference call. And I think the one area where Caleb can make the biggest jump year over year, I think there are two areas. One which Jalen Hurts I don't think can help him, but one in which he can. The one area I think we've talked about is down the field accuracy. And I think Caleb just needs to be better about setting his feet, cleaning up his mechanics, and just following through. But I think the other area is clearly in decisiveness. I think there were a lot of times, especially in the second half of last year, where Caleb spent a lot of time just sort of dancing in the pocket, evading the rush enough to buy himself more time. But oftentimes it just sort of delayed the inevitable of either an incomplete pass or a very short scramble or getting put into harm's way. I think really looking at the holes in the defense and really calibrating into that internal clock in your head and trusting your natural instincts to go, I think is something he could really learn from Hurts, because I think it was that decisiveness that really separated Jalen Hurts this year.
I agree with all that. And I'm going to say something that might be viewed a bit controversial. And I don't think in a bad way, but I just think with the hype that Caleb has garnered, and rightfully so, once you get that hype, you only want to compare to the best, and anything less is seen as a downfall, if you will. So let me kind of build this up a little bit. The first time, Jamal, you joined me before you were my co-host, you joined me as a guest, and I threw out that watching the other school, UCLA, watching DTR and the way he played reminded me a lot of Jalen Hurts. It was a comp that I hadn't really seen before, but their athleticism, their style, their swagger, their throwing style, there's a lot of similarities there. Later on, you were my co-host, and we were actually the first network, to my knowledge, that compared Caleb Williams to Patrick Mahomes. Fair or not fair, he had the magic man mantra. He could escape anything. He could make all the throws, had the, as you've said many times, the gravitas, the leadership, just that mantra that has the ability to become the greatest at his position. But based on everything you said, and when you look at the so far weaknesses of Caleb, which there aren't many, so we're pulling at straws here, so I don't want anyone to jump that. Like I'm saying this guy's still the greatest college football quarterback right now and is going to be the number one overall pick, bar anything crazy. But he's actually much closer to Jalen Hurts in comparison, because the thing he at this point, as great as he doesn't have the arm talent that Pat Mahomes has, let's be honest. He has great arm talent. It's not the strength and the deep ball accuracy that Pat Mahomes has. He has the rushing ability, probably better than Pat Mahomes, but more like Jalen Hurts. So in reality, this is probably a very synergy-like meeting between these two, because no one's comparing them, because Caleb's seen as the number one overall pick, the savior of USC, the magic man like Pat Mahomes. Jalen Hurts was a transfer like Caleb, but into Lincoln Riley's, not with Lincoln Riley. He was a second-round pick. He got given the job after some questionable stuff happening, a firing of the coach. But when you look at pure playing style, these guys are actually a lot more similar than probably a lot of people are talking about. Am I crazy?
No, it's an incredible point there, Ryan. And I think Lincoln is kind of getting Caleb ready for not just this college season, because Caleb could be exactly who he is and put together another Heisman campaign. But I think he's really starting to get Caleb ready from now for the draft and what the NFL is looking for. Because the one thing I will say, and people may roast me about this, if Caleb Williams does not get better, Caleb Williams is going to be a bust in the NFL. And the reason I say that, because what works in college does not work in the NFL, specifically when it comes to his skill set right now. And the down the field accuracy needs to get better. But if he thinks he can just sort of dance around for 12, 14 seconds with an NFL pass rush, with the horizontal closing speed at that next level, he's got another thing coming. And so I think that Lincoln really wants to emphasize, you have to get more decisive. You have to have a faster clock in your head. I think he's got it. He sort of chose not to use it because the game was almost maybe too slow or too easy at times for him. But that can also lead to some negative habits that you want to break. And so to me, this is all about setting the right behaviors. So he's got enough on film that really shows that he can play at a much quicker pace. Because if he just plays at the pace that he's playing, Ryan, he's going to be a bust in the NFL. And you can take that to the bank, and that's not something I'm going to back off on. He's got to get better in terms of these habits. He can still win the Heisman. Look, Tim Tebow almost won 2 Heismans. Tim Tebow almost won 3 Heismans. But Tim Tebow didn't do anything in the NFL short of that one playoff game with your Denver Broncos against the Steelers in overtime. So being great in college and getting the NFL are independent events. So I think Jalen Hurts coming in, to your point, Ryan, is the perfect mentor, given where they are in terms of skill sets. A, but also B, the thing that Caleb Williams needs to get better at is the thing that Jalen Hurts was really good at over the last 12 months.
Yep. And it's, last part of that, and then we'll move on and talk some Dante Moore and what he's coming. Speaking of Pat Mahomes, going over to see him, but again, we're nitpicking here because Caleb Williams, we both agree, is the best current college football quarterback and has so much talent and skill. But the one thing that, as you alluded to, and maybe we can call this superhero syndrome, we can call this trust, we can call this just being so much better than your peers, you can get away with this. But when we saw Addison go down, Williams go down, Dye go down, some of these other players go down during the season last year, Williams was so good that he could say, all right, I can do it all on my own and get past that. What he's going to have to prove this year is trusting his guys, trusting the system, because in order to be a good pro quarterback, you have to trust your guys and trust your system. You can't just be running for your life everywhere, making these magic plays. It might make for great highlights here and there, but eventually it's going to catch up with you, and either guys are going to know you're trigger happy and you don't make the quick decisions, and you're going to have to do it. But when we see these great quarterbacks that get drafted high and don't work out, that's usually the reason. It's not because they don't have the talent. It's because the decision-making, they don't either trust their teammates, trust the play at hand, and they're just trying to do too much on their own with that Superman syndrome, if you will. And we saw this even in the Super Bowl run with the Rams, with Matthew Stafford. We talk about it a lot on our show. As great as Stafford was, a lot of times in that season, he reverted back to his days in Detroit where he had to do everything. Outside of the years when Calvin Johnson was there were years when there was slim pickings on offense, and he had to do as much as he could just to make that team competitive. And then comes to the Rams, and things got a little bit awry, and he would revert back to that and not trust the fact that he had Cooper Kupp, had these other great players around him, had a coach like Sean McVay calling these great shots. So Caleb next year is going to have to say, okay, I have the deepest wide receiver room in all of college football. Even if I lose my top guy, it's deeper this year than it was last year. I have the number one tight end recruit, maybe ever, certainly this year. I have some great running backs in my stable. I have arguably the greatest college offensive mind in Lincoln Riley. As great as I am, the way I'm going to become better and more prepared is to trust that. And I want to see Caleb 3-step drop out of his hand. No more of these 15 scramble crazy. Like, they're fun. I love watching. I'm sitting in the press box like, this guy is magic. But in order to make that next step, it's going to be those quick, like, snap, boom, snap, boom. When you look at Mahomes, as great as some of his scrambles are, which he can still do that, and that's what will make Caleb better at the next level if he can go to that if necessary. But what makes Pat Mahomes great is some of the throws are so easy because it's boom, 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 done. Decision made, done. He makes a decision before he even snaps the football. That's made Tom Brady so great. Decision was made before he was snapped. So that's the next step in the maturation of Caleb Williams, which I believe he will do. And if so, then we're looking at not a bust. But if he doesn't, to your point, yeah, you can't just rely on talent in the NFL.
Absolutely. And so I think, if the first year was about the physical, to your point, Ryan, at USC, this year is going to be about the mental and the neurological and the understanding of the game. I think Lincoln wants him to look at the game more like Brady has, and Peyton Manning has, and Drew Brees has, and to a certain extent, even Aaron Rodgers has, and less like just being a great athlete. And so I think it's going to be a fun maturation to see. And I actually think there's an inverse correlation that may take place. I actually think if Caleb's stats are even better than last year's, I actually have a feeling he's going to be in a worse predicament from a level of preparation for the NFL. I actually think that if his numbers drop off a little bit, that means that he's really getting prepared for the NFL. And what I mean by that is, to your point, if he actually does kind of change his style a bit and gets a little bit more NFL friendly, there's going to be a little bit of friction there, especially in terms of a learning curve, changing some habits. The numbers aren't going to maybe be as pristine as they were last year. Whereas if he kind of builds on his numbers from last year, he's just kind of doubling down on the thing that makes him great, and they're just kind of milking the system. And, that was kind of the Tebow phenomena, right? Like, he had numbers that were even better in some cases from a passing standpoint than his Heisman year. But he never got any better in terms of being closer to being a true viable NFL prospect because he never fixed the release problem. He never fixed the windup problem. And had he really spent some time doing that in college, it would have been a struggle. He would have had some errant throws. He would have had interceptions. He would have gotten sacked. He would have had strip sacks. So there's an interesting play here. There's a difference between trying for another Heisman versus trying to be NFL ready day one as a number one pick. And those two things aren't always going to be the same. Now, the question is there enough overlap there to be able to win a national championship or go to a college football playoff and not have to sort of sacrifice winning a close game here or there for that. And I think that's where kind of the mystery and the intrigue of the season will really take place.
Yeah, just to be clear for everyone, Jamal is not comparing Caleb Williams to Tim Tebow. I don't want anyone to get that misconstrued. So, because I know you're not. It's just your point is spot on. It's just saying like collegiately great is different than NFL great. And so if Caleb can make these few little tweaks, he's going to be not only collegiately great, but arguably one of the best NFL quarterbacks as well. And it'll be exciting to see. And the last point I'll say, and then we'll wrap up with Dante, is I agree with you about statistically, depending how they come about, because you can still put up huge stats if it's done differently. If he's quick decision-making and he's just getting receivers with yak, if, we're seeing Brendan Rice pop off like he did the last two games where, you can give him a nice quick slant and he's taken to the house. And so his stats are still 350, 400 yards a game, but it's decision-making pop. And then that's different. Those are stats, but they're not empty stats. They're full on like, okay, he's mastered the system, mastered the stuff he needed to do. And his teammate bought into the teammates who are elevating him as well, besides him just elevating his teammates. And that will, I think, lead to a national championship as well, because if they're all playing collectively, bettering each other, that's what you want. That's what a coach wants. That's what a program needs to get to that natty, which I think they do. So, yeah, it'll be fun to watch. Cannot wait. I will be at the spring game on Saturday at noon. Trojans fans, if you're there, hit me up at Ryan Dowd, LAFB. Would love to come say hi and say what up, as it's going to be a blast out there at the Collie. Hopefully we'll have a great turnout and see these guys and a lot of transfers come in and show some stuff. So final 4.5 or so minutes, Jamal, let's talk some Bruins since we're doing a combo show here. So Trojans fans, you can log off if you want. Bruins fans, welcome to the party. Dante Moore, we talked about a little bit on the Monday Night Live, was pictured with Trey Lance and the great Pat Mahomes in Westwood, training together, hanging out. Your thoughts on, obviously all the greats go to Westwood because of the facility there. It's Tom Brady's trained there many times. A-Rod's been there many times. But yeah, your just thoughts of the current NFL GOAT in Mahomes hanging out with the great future.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan, just to sort of segue into the last conversation, I think Mahomes is sort of an ideal mentor for Dante Moore. He's an ideal mentor for anyone that is playing the quarterback position at any level, because he's the best quarterback there is today. But I think more specifically, I think where he can really instill values and behaviors and instincts the right way with Dante is to not try and do too much early. And I think the great lesson for me of Patrick Mahomes in 2022 was his ability to be able to win the Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill, because he didn't feel like he had to do too much. Let's go back another year, Ryan. Let's go back to 2021. There was a book that was sort of emerging with Mahomes a little bit over the course of that season. You go too high safety, you play everything, you shade over to Tyreek, you sort of double Kelsey, you play deep, and Mahomes didn't have the discipline, didn't have the willingness to kind of check down and dink and dump and quick throw his way to 13-play drives, 15-play drives, 7-minute drives, and work his way down the field. There was sort of a book there that was emerging, and he was struggling with some of these more Tampa 2-like defenses and the too high safety look over the course of the season. And once he realized that he did not have to be Superman every week, and he didn't need to have that as his mantra, he actually won the Super Bowl with less in 22 than he had in 21. And I think that's what he needs to tell Dante Moore, a guy who's coming in, most decorated quarterback recruit since Josh Rosen, the highest ever rated recruit UCLA has ever had, already preordained as the savior of the program, the guy that's going to put UCLA on the map, put them into the college football playoff. You walk in there as a true freshman. You've come early. Chip is gushing about you. You're gushing about him. Everybody's sort of in love with you. There is a natural tendency to feel like you have to be Superman, you have to be the savior, you have to do everything. And now here is Mahomes coming and saying, look, just be who you are, stay within the confines of the offense, and on a particular play, on a particular drive, in a particular circumstance, if you have to put the cape on, you have to put the cape on. but that doesn't have to be or should be your default position in the way you play football, because it's actually going to hurt you. And so as long as you trust your coaches, you know, one guy's got Andy Reid, the other guy's got Chip Kelly, two very similar minds in terms of offensive pedigree. If you trust your coaches, you trust what's around you, you can actually accomplish more by doing less. And I think if I'm Chip Kelly, that's the message I want Patrick Mahomes to really shower Dante Moore with, because if you look at this team with the UCLA Bruins, this is the most talented team top to bottom UCLA has had since 2014, the better part of a decade. And at certain key positions, this is the most talented team they've had since 2006. And overall, in terms of depth, this might be the most talented team they've had since the late 80s with Aikman. So there's so much around him that as long as he just plays within the confines of the system and plays algebra and doesn't have to play calculus, this team is going to be set up for success.
Yes. If you're on radio, that's all the time we got. I'm going to finish some conversation on podcasts. So make sure to check us out on lfbnetwork.com. Everyone have a blessed weekend on the Mightier 1090 ESPN. We'll talk to you all next Friday. So a lot to take in there, Jamal, and I completely agree with all of it, because the biggest thing when you are a young Superman athlete that has all the talent in the world, and I'm not saying Dante Moore's like this, but just in general, I mean, we were both young men before. We've both been, I haven't really been told I've been elite at anything, but, you know, especially someone like Dante, he's told he's elite at everything, and that's how he's recruited. You're the best at this. We want you here. And so you can get in your mind that, all right, I have all this talent. I was the best in middle school. I was the best in high school. I'm the top recruit in the nation. I'm the best in LA, all these different things. And you can start to be like, I can do it all. Even at 18 years old, even at a young age, I can do it all and win these games on my own. Kind of like what Caleb did last year that we were just talking about earlier, in a sense. And Caleb did do it all in a sense. But the biggest thing for Dante Moore this year as a freshman is, and you alluded to it, how much will he trust in Chip Kelly? Because if he does less, he will achieve more this season. There will come a time when we will have to put the cape on and he will have to achieve more, or we will have to compete more to achieve more. But early on, with this running game, as you alluded to, the talent, with the receiving room they have now, with the defense that is going to absolutely be better than it was last year, could arguably be one of the best we've seen in quite some time. All Dante Moore has to do is truly trust Chip Kelly and the scheme and his teammates, and this Bruins team is going to go and Dante Moore is going to have a very, very bountiful season. And that is what I would take from this, and you were alluding to it too, but with this Pat Mahomes year is Pat Mahomes, I mean, who knows if they talked film, they may have just literally worked out, like said some highs and congratulations. But if they did sit down at all, I would not be shocked at all if Pat Mahomes said, look at what this last year did. I mean, look at how quick I made my decisions pre-snap. If you look at 2 years ago, the 13-second game against Buffalo, was that 2 years ago?
Yep.
Everyone talks about the greatness at home Mahomes winning that game. Or tying that game and then winning it overtime, which obviously Mahomes is the one that did it. But this wasn't some drop back, Doug Flutie like scramble, hair melody throw. It was a snap and throw within less than a second to Kelsey to get you in field goal range. It was decision making. It was trusting either the play call or trusting your teammates to change the play call. And so for Dante Moore, what's going to be this freshman year is like, how much does he trust Chip Kelly and his system to say, okay, he knows what he's doing. I'm going to use my talents to trust that system. I'm not going to try to do too much, because in reality, that's going to hurt me. As I said before, do less to achieve more. And this is going to be a solid season for Dante Moore and these Bruins.
Absolutely, Ryan. And I think that's, what a great lesson that is for him. And there's a lot of parallels here between Mahomes and Dante in terms of the situation. We alluded to the strong leadership. When you got an Andy Reid, you got a Chip Kelly, two offensive minds, guys that are more cerebral, more calm. There's a calming influence. And I actually think that Ethan Garbers is Dante Moore's Alex Smith. I think he's pushing him the right way, much in the way that Alex Smith, I think, pushed Mahomes his rookie year. Look, let's not forget, Mahomes didn't start right away. He came in towards the end of that season when the Chiefs were actually out of contention, and was able to sort of observe Alex Smith and see how he was able to play in that system, utilize the good there, and then, of course, rely on his natural abilities. And I think Dante, watching Ethan Garbers and executing in practice and doing so well, I think he's realizing that, hey, as long as I make the decisive play, the simple decisive play, the clean play, I'm going to be successful in this offense. So I think Garbers is sort of pushing him the right way. And then he's seeing all the talent on the back end in the backfield. He's seeing Sturdivant run wild in these 7-on-7, 11-on-11 drills. He's seeing the specimen that Kyle Ford is. He's seeing the level of experience that's coming back at the receiver slot with the likes of TMA and the likes of Cam Brown. He's seeing what a beast Carson Steele is back there, who's, we talked about him being jacked like Christian McCaffrey and running like Zach Charbonnet. He's seeing the smoothness of TJ Harden. He's seeing the level of energy on this defense and the competitiveness. He's like, listen, this is the first time since I played probably Pee Wee football when I was 8 or 9 years old, where I don't have to be, the de facto best player on the field here. There's a lot of talent and a lot to like. And as long as I trust my system, I trust my progressions, I trust my reads, I trust the coaching staff, I'm going to be very successful. So I think it's all set up for success. And I think that continuity and the stability is going to be key. And I think that it's going to be very interesting to see how Chip plays it. I think you and I believe that he's going to start day one. And I think that's the way you do it. You sort of do trial by fire, given who this young man is, his level of competitiveness, his level of preparation. But there is also a school of thought that says, hey, maybe you start Garbers and you let him kind of see the field a little bit, especially with some of the lighter competition. And then you make the change. When sort of he's kind of seen what good behaviors are, and maybe you give him some spot play early in the season, and then you sort of turn him loose when you need to. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how Chip also adopts how much of Andy Reid's philosophy with Mahomes he's going to adopt, and vice versa.
Is that the next LAFB shirt? Do less, achieve more. MOORE.
Yes.
Kinda
my goodness, it happened. Do less, achieve more. Oh my goodness, that is it. Absolutely right there. And we're going to give it to Dante, and we're going to give it to MJ. And, one thing, Ryan, it's a great opportunity to share here. I'm so proud of you and the network, and what a great week it's been for us. And more of this will come in the media in the weeks and months to come. But for us to be recognized by UCLA as a Bruin Business 100 company, one of the most recognizable companies that have been started by a UCLA or UCLA alums. And so for LAFB to be on that list, I think is really incredibly special. And I think the opportunity to sort of continue to grow this in the likes of Westwood, in the likes of downtown Los Angeles, in the likes of Inglewood, we're only kind of scratching the surface here. And I think when we see perhaps Chancellor Block at the Bruin Business 100 event, if we see Martin Jarman there, if we see Dante Moore there, I think we got to have that shirt ready and give it to him and have some fun with it.
Yes, do less, achieve more. Yes, huge honor for us. I'm blushing because it's just, a lot of hard work by a lot of people here at LAFB, and to be recognized by one of the most prestigious universities in the world obviously means a lot to me and a lot to us, and, a lot of hard work from yourself and many others. So thrilled about that and excited. And like you said, we're just scratching the surface. We're just getting started, and hopefully soon be recognized by, USC as well. We'll get on that side, and then working hopefully with the Chargers and Rams more. And so a lot of fun stuff, but good things. I mean, it's wild, Jamal, how great of potential quarterbacks we have here in Los Angeles. Obviously Herbert and Stafford on the pro side, but the Heisman winner in Caleb Williams, and the fresh, huge recruit in Dante Moore. And you alluded to, even with Garbers and Justin Martin's showing out in spring ball as well. I mean, he's pushing the envelope. So, so much talent here in Los Angeles, as it should be. And it's an honor to be able to cover it. So, and it's an honor to cover it with you. And we thank everyone out there for listening. I guess we apologize that you guys had to listen to crosstalk with Bruins and Trojans, but hopefully maybe you learned something or enjoyed it. Or the goal here, Jamal, is we want to start doing these. Obviously we do Monday Night Live, we do Bruins talk or Trojans talk at 7, Bruins talk at 7:30. But maybe one day we'll just do it from 7 to 8, and we'll get some Trojans and Bruins fans either peacefully communicating or just going at it.
Can you imagine that chat? Can you imagine that StreamYard chat room that will be taking place if we combine it? Oh my goodness. Get your popcorn ready, get your protective cup on, cover the ears and let's go at it with the Crosstown Rivals. It's no beating USC for UCLA is no fun if it's not a rivalry. Beating UCLA for USC is no fun if there's no rivalry. They kind of need each other to sort of inspire the level of passion. And so it's the most unique rivalry in all of college sports because it's truly a cross-town rivalry. No other premier institutions share the same city 12 miles apart. And this is the first time since 1988 that presumably 2 5-star quarterbacks will be captaining the ship of each side. And I think, Caleb and Dante, this thing has all the makings to be an epic year. And I'm very, very excited. You've got kind of the established Heisman winner and the young prodigy. And, it sort of almost reminds me a little bit of that. Could that USC-UCLA game in November take on that 98 Bulls-Lakers game? I mean, if you recall, when you had Jordan and a young Kobe kind of going at it, shot for shot, that was still, to me, for my money, the greatest individual duel I have ever seen in my lifetime. And so could we see, a Jordan-Kobe-esque type of duel in the Collie with Heisman winner Caleb Williams and prodigy Dante? More is more.
And hey, we saw a glimmer of it just this past year with DTR versus Caleb in the Rose Bowl. I mean, the 48-45 thriller. And so if we can build upon that, and we've said since the beginning, Jamal, that our dream was that this rivalry would be restored to the likes of Ohio State versus Michigan, Alabama versus Auburn, these great, great college football rivalries. And USC and UCLA is one of those great college football rivalries. I don't think it gets the respect that it deserves because it's so different than the other ones. It is literally separated by less than 20 miles. I mean, these are families that not only grow up together, but still live together and go to different schools. You went to both schools. I mean, how many people can say they went to Michigan undergrad and Ohio State postgrad? Like, not many. A lot of people can say they went to either UCLA or USC undergrad and then USC or UCLA postgrad. I mean, that's very common. And so it's such a unique rivalry. The fact that our football teams are both back, it's so exciting. The fact that we have, if Dante Moore lives up to the hype, we could arguably have QB1 and QB2 in all of college football in the confines of Los Angeles playing for these two great coaches. We have two of the greatest offensive minds in college football, both residing in Westwood and Los Angeles, and two of the most historic uniforms, two of the great ADs. I mean, there's so much, and I'm obviously hyped, and I cannot wait for the season to start. This has been a fun conversation. Excited about where LAFB is headed, excited about where these schools and programs are headed, and excited for everyone out there listening to be on this journey with us. So thank you for allowing us to have crosstalk, allowing us to have this platform. Mr. Jamal Madney, thank you, as always, for joining me on this LA football program. And thank you all for tuning in. Everyone have a blessed weekend. We'll talk to you Monday Night Live, Bruins talk or Trojans talk at 7, Bruins talk at 7:30 Pacific time. We will see you all then. Everyone take care.